I need a ladder to get up on the ladder.
All right, here we are at this job site. We're doing some painting today. I started painting this section, but I wanted to get this on film to explain a couple things about just rolling paint, which is pretty simple. Like you would think it's pretty self-explanatory, but there is, I guess, a few tips I could give you. Like a lot of homeowners, they'll use those trays, whereas we're using like this bucket right here with the paint grid and just dipping into that, which we always do. We like to do it like this much better.
Old school.
Yeah, you can hold a lot more paint. You're not always filling up your tray. It's just the way the pros do it. Now, see if I can get this camera on the ceiling here. Hopefully that gets it, but when you roll, you want to go in the same direction. Always go in the same direction. And you want to watch out for like runs or lines that you leave behind. You don't want to go over it too many times, but you just want to get out any lines you leave behind. If you go over it too many times, you're just going to start taking off the paint you put on. Usually it takes 2 coats to get a good full coverage. Sometimes you can get away with 1 coat, but sometimes it's hard to tell until you let it dry completely. You come back like the next day or something, and you're gonna see a few spots that you just missed on that first coat. The roller just be like little dots. We call them holidays. So usually 2 coats does it. Some companies, some brands of paint will say like 1 coat coverage, or maybe the rolling nap will say 1 coat coverage, but you know, that might not be true. And just start right off where you left off on the last run. Now, the ceiling is pretty big, so I'm going about not even halfway, and then I'm gonna go back and kind of feather that in to it. You see how I'm stopping here, but the ceiling continues on, so I'm gonna do a section here and then continue this on over. Whenever painting on any kind of semi-gloss, or actually any paint with a sheen to it, like a shine, you always want to primer it, or somehow get, sand it, or use some product that gets that sheen off so that the new paint will adhere, it'll stick to it. Because if you don't, what'll happen is, like if you just barely scratch it with your fingernail or something, the paint will start coming off, the new paint will start coming off. So
what do you do when you run out of space for the ladder?
You start floating using black magic or something. Nah.
Black magic. Who sings that song?
I don't know.
Slayer.
There you go.
Oh, that could have been a question for the
comments.
for the comments. Yeah, I just messed up your.
Nah. So now I did this section, I'm going to stop there and then continue it all the way over while this is still kind of wet, so I can feather into it kind of nicely. Oh, Nate, we still got to cut that wall right there, dude.
Yeah.
Can't. All right, I'm gonna wait on this section until he cuts that. That's another thing. You want to cut your corners with the brush before you roll. So you roll over your brush marks, because the roller leaves a texture, so does a brush, but you want it all to be the same texture as much as possible. So we always cut the corners first, because the roller doesn't roll into the corner. So you want to do that cutting first with the brush, then you roll over it with the roller, and that texture of the roller will go over most of that brush marks. So like this section, I'll let him go over that corner with the brush, and then I'll do that. So in the meantime, I'm just going to continue on here since he's already cut this whole corner. You see how he's feathered it out to about here with the brush? So all I got to do is roll up into that. Now, we didn't like protect the floor because we're going to be pulling out this carpet and tiling the floor, so there was no need to protect the floor, really. But yeah, that carpet's not staying. So this is what we were talking about, cutting it. Because we're doing the ceiling and the walls the same color,
You can be sloppy.
yeah, you'd be pretty sloppy. It's pretty easy to do. But if you're doing the ceiling, let's say white, and the walls another color, then you would still cut it, but you'd cut the ceiling separately than the walls. So you'd only be doing like just
You'd be
cutting
doing
the
just like
ceiling,
top
and we'd be
row.
just painting the ceiling. Yeah, just like that. But in this case, we could just hit that whole corner.
So everybody looks like a professional.
So the only reason I came back this way was because I saw some drips there. I don't know if they show up in the camera or not, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm really surprised on like how many people use the trays instead of just using a bucket and a grid. I don't really understand why
I know, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't get it really. It's almost like people think that's the way you're supposed to do it. Also, if you find any chunkies, get rid of them. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.
What? Oh, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe.